Hi, everybody. It's Dale Walsh on Straight Sane and Sober on this 11th day of 1/1/22. I'm sure for all you numerologists out there, this is a very significant day, but I'm honored and grateful and so happy to have as my guest today Rodolfo D'Angeli, who gave me the best podcast interview of my life about 3 4 weeks ago, and I wanted to return the favor. And he's a very interesting and multifaceted guy. But before we go into that, I think the best introduction would be, since I am the poetic warrior, to read the poem that I wrote in reaction to the podcast that I was on with him, and it goes, "The podcast that changed it all." Thank you, Rodolfo, for letting me weep the last tears of 46 years of confused insanity arising from deep fears of the end of life, which now has become the best possible, as I find myself finally able to appreciate the inner beauty of myself and the end of a lifelong quest for meaning. I knew I would have a busy day when I awoke this morning, but I had no idea the switch to abundance would be so evident when I would meet a transformational man to befriend, to walk beside me through the final agonies of apocalyptic days, when I would realize I was never at any time psychotic. As the 4+ decades I thought myself crazy just disappear into a distant yesterday that will never again manifest here, and I can get on with the business of my new existence, because at last I comprehend nobody can take away bliss I feel in the sweet dream when I wake up to the embrace of my perfect female lover slumbering next to me, through the storms of the dark nights without starlight, when the silent new moon hides itself in earthly heavens, and I perceive my time in the world with an insightful eye that has allowed me at any moment without despair to cry. So that was written in honor of you, Rodolfo, because you did such an incredible job of. I think I think people can still watch that interview on your Facebook page, correct?
That's correct, Dell. I mean, first of all, I want to say thank you for allowing me to be here with you today. And as you said, that podcast was definitely one that I will remember for the rest of my life. It was not just a show that or I had and I recorded as I do, but this became something bigger. It became a friendship. It became a brotherhood. I call you brother today. That day is a very special day to me, to my wife, and to many of the people that have seen the show that have reached out. So being here with you today, which is supposed to have been last week, but with a little bit of a glitch in timing, I stuffed that. I was able to stuff that one up. But first of all, I want to say thank you for allowing me to be here and serve you and hopefully serve your audience and have a good time again.
Well, I'm sure we will, and I've been looking forward to. I wasn't disappointed. Well, I was disappointed at first, but then when I found out it was just a time glitch, then I made sure that I rescheduled you for today instead of last week. And Simon McDougall who's a mental health warrior, was kind enough to come in out of nowhere and sort of like cover the show. So no harm, no foul, as they say.
That is great. So your show can be seen absolutely on the Facebook page still as a video format, and it will be out on all the platforms in probably at the beginning of next week. So yeah, people can go and listen to it and be blown away by your story and that whole episode. So there'll be tears, there'll be laughters, there'll be everything in there, which
Yeah.
is so amazing. So yeah.
Well, so you have such a varied and like interesting life. I'm not sure really where to start, but why don't we start with when you were suicidal, almost suicidal, and that was basically the low point of your life. And from there you've just like taken off and climbed the mountain after mountain, and now you're a trainer for Tony Robbins, and yeah, shamanic healer, and a plant medicine a practitioner. And so why don't we just start with that dark moment where you almost didn't want to go on.
Yeah, I think that would be a great place to start. I mean, I was 40 years old. Only 12 years ago this all started. So it's not a long time ago. If I close my eyes, I still see myself in my garage, looking at the rope and farewelling my wife, behind me through a window while she was watching TV, and I was about to end my life. But that at that moment something happened, right? At that moment, I remember she burst out in this incredible laughter. She was watching TV, and something must have happened on the show. So she had this hysterical laughter going on, and I was about to end my life, and that was the moment I had to ask myself, there had to be more to life than misery, because I was about to end my life, but she was having the time of her life. So how the heck is this even possible, right? So for me, it was that question, the primary question that I asked myself, it has to be more to life than misery, was the beginning of this journey that I have been on for 12 years. And like you said before, I went from the lowest point of my life to the highest mountains, as you said, but it wasn't super that easy. It wasn't that easy, right? Because the beginning of that, I remember the next day of this happening, of this moment of me trying to end my life. I read a quote, right, and the quote said, "If you do what you have always done, you will get what you have always gotten," right? And I realized that in my life, I didn't do many changes. I'm very stubborn. I was kind of, my upbringing and all of that. I was abandoned as a kid. I was sexually abused as a teen, and eventually got married very young and found my then wife with someone else, and eventually ended up in jail and homeless, and then traveled from Europe to Australia to start over again, thinking that I could just leave all my crap behind, where in actual fact life came with me, and eventually I was served the bill and I needed to pay up, right? So when I saw this quote, I realized, oh man, you are very stubborn. You're not humble at all. You're very ego centric. It's about you all the time, and this is why you are where you are right now. And even though you love to blame the world and everybody in it for where you are in your life, this is the time you got to take responsibility. So for me, it was a huge awakening. It was a huge, I guess life humbled me, right? So then I got a little bit deeper with this quote and wanted to know who this person was who said this quote. The quote was by Tony Robbins. And long story short, I went to one of his events a week later, which was just about an hour and a half flight here. So everything started to come together in such a weird way. And a week later, I'm at one of Tony's events, and it was incredibly transformational for me. I felt like, oh my God, I found the way. I found the way to get back to this. I remember I was on antidepressants, and and always when I say this part of the story, I always put a disclaimer out that this is only my story. This is not my advice to anybody. This is just me sharing my story. And the story is that a week later at this event, I gone cold turkey out of my antidepressants and never went on it again. I decided to myself, I will never swallow one more tablet ever again in my life. And I tossed them all down the toilet, right? And then I decided to get a coach, right? I'm like, yeah, this has to be amazing. I get a coach, it's gonna transform my life, which it did. And my business took off, and we employed 22 staff, we made 7 figures yearly, we're really successful. And I felt, man, I got my life back. And yet I realized that I only went on an outer journey. The coach was great. She's still one of my friends today, but I went on an outer journey, what I call today an outer journey. I achieved great things, but the inner journey, my inner world, my heart space was still not healed. There was still a lot of trauma. Everything was still there. Matter of fact, about a year and a half into this journey, I crashed even more than I was before. And that was the moment when then I discovered shamanism, and eventually the path brought me to South America. And there was much deeper work done from that moment on. And eventually I realized that life is about two journeys: our outer journey, our need to fulfill goals and achieve things, which is amazing, but also our inner journey to find the person that we truly are. And so whatever we achieve is not to fill a void that we have within us, but rather it's an expression of who we are as human. And that's when my life really started to change. My life had a purpose, and all of a sudden my life had fulfillment, not just achievements. And the funny story from there is that going back and forth from South America, all of a sudden the shamans that I was working with, they saw something in me, and all of a sudden they started to teach me what they knew. And they were elderly people. They were in 75 years old, both of them, and they just unloaded everything they knew onto this younger European guy that made one trip after the other to
An
South
apprentice.
America. Say again?
Their apprentice.
That's right. I became their apprentice, and started then eventually to perform the ceremonies with them. And it was just an incredible thing, because I never wanted to do this work ever. I mean, it was not in my plan, but I guess the plan was different. And then I started I joined one of Tony's coaching academy. I started to learn about coaching as well, because I understood the power of putting the two things together, which is what I do today. I today take the people that I'm called to serve, on this inner and outer journey of self-discovery, but also action. So it's beautiful to go and achieve things, but what people learn and what people discover on this journey with me is that the goal will never be there to fill their void, but it's just an expression of who they are. And all of a sudden, happiness doesn't come a year down the track when they achieve whatever, but it starts today. And with that, we go and get what is ours out there, right? So studying and learning from great coaches, Magali Pasha, Mark Pasha, and Chloe Madonis, which are very close partners with Tony. I started to learn all about that stuff. And then in 2020 was my 10-year anniversary from my attempted suicide. And I decided to go on all of the events of Tony that I participated in 2010. Right? I thought, okay, I want to relive my year the way I did in 2010. I want to honor. I want to say thank you, and so on and so forth. So I embarked on all of these events through 2020, and then in December 2020, I was a part of this event, Date with Destiny, and I remember we had a moment break on day 5. And I am at the front of my house, just, sitting outside a little bit. And there was a moment that I said to myself, actually vocalize it out loud, because it's very important to say what we want out loud, right? And I said, I really wish I could say thank you. That's it, right? I literally just said, I wish I could say thank you, right? And then Grace calls me, And I come back in, the event keeps going, it was virtual. And all of a sudden, Grace said, "Oh, he just said your name." And I'm like, "No, no way. What do you mean?" He goes, he said your name. I'm like, "Nah, you're seeing things, right?" And he goes, you know, and so he's talking. All of a sudden, I am exactly like you and I now, right? There is Tony and there is me, amongst 10,000 people. And he calls me out, and we had to do like an exercise or whatever. And he tells me, how that exercise went for me and whatever. And I remember I stood up, and I said, "Tony, can you give me 30 seconds?" Right. And he goes, "Yeah," and I said, "Do you remember me 10 years ago?" Because I had the chance to meet him in a very funny way 10 years prior. And "Do you remember me? I came to you when I was broken, just a week after my suicide attempt." And we reconnected, right? He just like, "Oh my God, yeah, I remember you," right? And blah, blah, blah. We had this discussion about my journey and shamanism and whatever. And then all of a sudden he said, "Man, I want you to work with me," and open officially in front of 10,000 people. He took me into his team. And since December 2020, I'm now part of his crew, and part of the events. So now I'm on all the events, part of his support team and coaches and so on and so forth, and just climbing that ladder within his structure, I guess. um,
Organization.
so it's incredible, right? An incredible journey. How did I get here? I have no idea. I think everything just came, one step at a time. And I guess all of this brought you and I together, brought that incredible episode to happen a few weeks ago with you. And, the amalgamation of so many things and the combination of so many things. And the moment we get out of our own way, then the beauty happens, the miracle happens. And I don't like to use magic as a word, because magic is not real, where what we did and what we do is absolutely real. So that's a little bit of my story, and I hope this
We
is a little bit more of an understanding.
Well, you bring up a lot of points, but basically, one thing that I want to point out is that when the internal reflects the external, then you have a success no matter how much money you have. But if
Absolutely.
the external doesn't reflect the internal, then you're not. You can be a billionaire and still be unhappy. And uh, I mean that inner journey which you've been pursuing for 12 years now is really the crux of the matter, and so if like what was it just like, well, you said you went to Tony and you were just like transformed, so it was just like like a revelation came to you, right? But you still weren't dealing with the internal. So
Absolutely.
when did you begin dealing with the internal?
The internal is set in 2012, just about a year and a half. Yeah, early 2012. I was driving to work, and I realized that now I was driving a $300,000 car, and I should be the happiest man on earth, going to yet another project, and another opportunity to, I was in construction. I had a construction business, so a completely different world and life than I do today, because I am not in construction anymore. And I'm a coach today, and I offer shamanic retreats and so on and so forth. But I'm driving down the road, and I'm like, man, there's something missing. I am just, I could feel my anxiety coming back and so on and so forth. And I was listening to a podcast, and of all things, listening to a Joe Rogan podcast. And there was this guy on there, Aubrey Marcus, which came just back from Peru, and shared his story, his adventure in the jungle and so on. And man, I'm sure you know what I mean when you hear something and this is me. This is me. This is the missing link of my life, right?
Right.
And I remember coming home and telling Grace, I will need to go to Peru. I think my the missing piece of my life is in Peru, is in South America. You know, how am I going to get there? And all that kind of stuff wasn't really the issue. I couldn't go straight away, but but I knew that that was my new path. That was my new thing. And I realized also, I mean, now over the years, obviously, I realized that although, you know, the coaching aspect of things, and also perhaps Tony's events, which are absolutely amazing, and I would recommend everybody to go and experience that. Although, you know, having done this work now for a long time, I know that probably 70%, maybe more, maybe even 80% of people that come back from those events crash after a week, because that
Right.
high is gone, and now they're back to their own life, and their life cannot change in a matter of 6 days. It's just impossible. You can have an impact, and perhaps you have a new direction, but you still need, you know, the repetition and so on and so forth. But oftentimes people go back to their own life with their own, you know, structure around them, the people and everything. Nothing changes of that, right? And I realized today that you know, those things are amazing, but even more so is then really finding someone where we can come on a journey with you and just carry on from that moment on, right?
Right.
And that is the what today I see is very, very impactful with the people I'm working with, because I take them from where they are, and then it's a gradual walk to where they want to go on that outer journey. But along the way, we're gonna find the the person, right? We're gonna connect the outer to the inner,
Right.
and all of a sudden, you know, the journey becomes very fulfilling, and life changes, right?
Well,
So
I think that's one of the things that sort of like has, you know, you said you love my sense of humor about my schizophrenia and everything. I think that's one of the things that like sort of makes me different from most people with the illness, is that, you know, I've always felt fulfilled within, even though I might be, I'm broke 95% of the time, but you know, I mean, but just my journey. And I mean, the thing that you did on the podcast was just like make me so proud of the person that I am, you know, and and made me realize. I mean, that's why when you put on the song at the end, I was like almost crying. I would have cried if I hadn't been on camera, you know, but just like sort of like made me see why people are so like positive about me and what I'm doing. And I mean, you led me on a masterful journey. I mean, you used all your coaching abilities to like lead me to the point where I needed to be. But one thing that I was wondering is, how did you get involved with the shamans in the first place?
well, to me, you know, like I said before, there was that missing link, right? It was a missing link. So when I heard the podcast from Rogan with Aubrey, I realized I needed to go to this place where he was talking about this is where I need to go, right? But the road didn't take me there straight away. So I couldn't go to South America right away. I couldn't do, you know, jump on a plane and just leave and so on. So my path was a very funny one, because I shared that podcast with a friend of mine as well, and which also was going through a very challenging time in his life. And we said, you know, I said, man, we got to go there together, right? We got to go there together. This is us, and this is going to change our life. But and I kind of like put it on the back burner. There was something I need to do soon, but I can't do it right now, right? So all of a sudden, I received a phone call about 6 months later, 4, 5, 6 months later, more or less, from the guy, you know, from this friend of mine. And he said, hey, brother, do you have a tent which I can borrow? And I'm like, yeah, actually, I do have, you know, are you going away? He goes, yeah, I'm going away for the weekend, right? And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Come pass and pick it up, right? And as I hang up the phone, I'm like, huh? Hang on a second. Rob doesn't camp. There's nothing under 5 stars, there's no way he camps, right? So I called the guy back. And I'm like, dude, where are you going exactly? He goes, oh, we're just going out in nature. We just, step away. I'm like, dude, you do not camp. Where the heck are you going? And then he tells me that his wife is a personal trainer, and this lady went to her, and apparently when she wanted to schedule more session with this lady, the lady said, listen, I can't come that day because I am going to do this, right? And so she went back to her husband and said, hey, isn't that what Rodolfo was talking about? Blah, 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 blah. Long story short, they were going there, right? And I remember telling him, man, you got to take me with you. Please, please, please take me with you. And he told me that it was, invitation only. And, it has to be like, kind of like someone has to bring you there, whatever, whatever. So it was impossible, and I said, man, you gotta come home, and you gotta straight away come to me and tell me everything about it. Right. As a matter of fact, it was a 3-day retreat, and he came back after day one, and he shared with me, what he went through, and so on and so forth. And I went the month after. So he introduced me to this thing, and I went a month after. And I spent 2 years working with this particular person, which eventually turned out to be a fraud, and a person that had no training whatsoever. But in saying that, I still received what I was looking for. I bypassed the whole bullshit. I bypassed the show. I bypassed the person. For me, I was so much in need of finding myself that I just, received what I needed. But eventually the door opened for me to go to South America. Literally on a Saturday afternoon, sitting on a couch, I said, now I gotta go. And matter of fact, on Monday, 2 days later, I was on a plane to South America. And that's when I really understood what plant medicine was about. I understood what the ancient traditions were about, what congruent work in this field is about, and how powerful this work is, and how very delicate and dangerous it can be if you put yourself in the hand of someone that has no training, but also doesn't have the the best interest of the people that will go there, to sit with him. So, and that was, the journey, how everything started. So, yeah.
Well, ayahuasca became a thing after I'd already like basically been in my mental illness for like 20 years, But I as I said in my interview with you, I feel that LSD was like the thing that really like tipped me over the edge into mental illness and psychosis. But I know you said that you don't deal with people with plant medicine that have schizophrenia or any serious mental illness, right?
Correct. Yeah. So I have done, I mean, over the years now, I think I probably have sat 700 ceremonies. So I've done a lot of work with ayahuasca and with wachuma, which is the medicine and the practice that I follow. With either of those, especially with ayahuasca, though, you're you will not be able to participate if you are on any antipsychotics, if you are on antidepressants, SSRI, MAOs, and all that kind of stuff. If you have psychosis, bipolar, and those kind of things, it becomes very delicate, especially with ayahuasca. What Chuma is a tiny fraction, letting me more forgiving, still no medications, but depending on the person where it is. But again, if people hear things already or see things, it's definitely not the best way or the best place to go and do the work. Although nature is amazing and provides us with other medicines as well. One of those being a medicine originating from Brazil, which is called rapé, spelled R-A-P-E with an accent and a H. So rape. An English person will probably pronounce it rape, right? It's the same spelling with a H at the end, but with an accent on the E. So the word is rape. And it's also a plant medicine that is very different than ayahuasca and wachuma, but very powerful and very healing. So when people come to me that want to do work with me, and they share that they have medication involved, or perhaps schizophrenia, or any typologies of those type of things, then I work with that medicine, and that medicine is very different. It's not hallucinogenic. There's nothing of that. It's more actually it's a very powerful medicine that allows the person to find the center, so straight into your heart space, and whatever is happening right now to the person with this medicine, which is a very strong surge of energy in the head space at the beginning. What I guide the person to do is just to observe and not engage with it. So by observing, and this is what I do also with people that just that suffer depression or anxiety, and sometimes we can get caught into it, the panic attacks and so on. I help people understand or teach people to remove themselves from that feeling, and rather than engage in hoping it wasn't there, just observe, and all of a sudden you can find it is a way to find your inner stillness and being able to witness what is going on, and from there gather lessons and teachings from I call them teachers, even though people call them anxiety. I used to call them anxiety for 40 years of my life, anxiety, depression. Yet today I know they are teachers. They're teaching us something. There is something that we need to adjust within our lives. And if we do that, the teacher will leave. But the more we resist it, the more we try to push it away, it will just keep coming until we acknowledge and we take action, But yeah, so ayahuasca, wachuma, those powerful entheogens, not super recommended if you are on, strong medication, or you suffer from psychosis, or these type of mental illnesses.
I would suppose it's strongly recommended you don't do it, right?
Better you don't do it. Yeah, better you don't do it. Just find
Yeah.
another way. There is other ways that you can heal, that you can introduce yourself into the plant medicine world. And it doesn't have to be, also one thing, Dale, that is unfortunate, but this is the world we live in, and the times we live in, I should say. The Western world, now, especially with ayahuasca, everybody talks about ayahuasca, ayahuasca. And the reason why, it's because ayahuasca gives you these incredible hallucinations, the colors and the vivid, visions, and so actually hallucinations, where in reality, Dale, those things, if you work with a real, practitioner, ayahuasquero, as they are called in South America, that is actually a no-no. So you do not get caught into the hallucination, because the hallucination is only a metaphor to life. It's a distraction. There's nothing within the hallucination, very little inside the hallucination. Where the lessons are in ayahuasca and in all other plant medicine, it's in the vision. But the vision and the hallucination are two different things. A hallucination you get caught in, and all of a sudden you're looking around, you have all these colors and the things, whatever is happening. The vision is stillness, is within the stillness that the lesson or the healing comes. And unfortunately, the Western world hasn't grabbed that on yet, because many practitioners in the Western world endorse the fact of, visions and hallucinations and colors and patterns and whatever. But the thing is, if you ask a person that had ayahuasca, on the Monday when they come back, they will tell you, oh my God, you have no idea. I saw this and I saw this and I saw that. And that was amazing. And the colors and whatever. If you ask that person a week later and you say, so what what has changed since a week for you? And the most time the answer is, um I'm not sure, I'm still integrating. And Dale, trust me, it's bullshit. They got nothing. They got distracted. And my teacher, Master Don Howard Lawler, would always say, do not sleep in class. And sleeping wasn't meant as sleeping as in sleeping that way, but really sleeping as in getting caught in things. Stay away from it. We do that in life. We are distracted, right? We do things, we work and we study, we're reading, we're doing, but then there's our iPhone is going off, the email is coming in, someone is calling. There's always something going on. Ayahuasca and other plant medicines use hallucinations, use particular way the medicine works as a metaphor to that. And unfortunately, under the wrong guidance, people get caught to it and believe this is what it's all about.
Right.
But if you take one of those people that wants to do ayahuasca so bad, and you really bring him into a real journey, which is going to challenge their sanity, trust me, they will not run back to ayahuasca that quickly, right?
Right.
Because those medicines, those entheogens can take you to the place of literally losing your freaking mind, right? It's powerful work. So we got to be mindful. Got to be mindful.
Well, one thing about my LSD experience, I mean, this is the only thing I have an analogy to make to it, but my own LSD experiences, I never hallucinated. I would just like go with the feeling, and I would get like a sense of like profound peace and silence inside me, and that's why I did it, and ultimately that blew up into like this God thing that I'm famous for, that lasted for 30 years. But I mean, when you say that people like just talk about the hallucinations and the colors and everything with ayahuasca rather than the real meaning behind it, I think that's very relevant to like most major drugs, and I think that's reason why people go psychotic is because they're looking for an experience that isn't what's meant to be.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. 100% I agree with you. You know, people unfortunately look for the escape. There's pain here, there's trauma, there's everything. And what can I do to get away from this, even for just a moment? And then they find refuge in hallucinating and doing all this powerful stuff, but where instead this work really requires you to go into your soul, and it's not always light in your soul, right? There's a process I do with when people come and do a retreat privately, before what is going on in the world now. I used to have people flying in from all over the world to do ceremonies, and on a one-on-one basis. And there's a thing that I do, and when I have the opportunity to serve one person only, depending also if that person is ready for that, I get them to look into a mirror, right? At the peak of the medicine, of the strength of the medicine, I get them to look into a mirror, and just stay there and not budge, and whatever happens, just do not look away. And the longer they look into the mirror, what happens is all of a sudden, it opens the door of the soul. And all of a sudden, you have the morphing of the face, the morphing of your spirit happening. And I remember for me, when I did at the beginning of my journey, it was scary as heck, because you really can see the light and the darkness that is within every single person, and especially ourselves, which we all want to believe that there is no darkness, right? And
Right.
that moment is not only powerful, but it also very humbling. And I don't do that with everybody, but if I feel that someone is ready for something like that, I will bring him through that experience. And So rather than going for an hallucination, I I suggest, if anybody is looking for doing this type of work, this ancient shamanic work and so on, really go with an incredibly powerful intention. Do not try this. Do not go for the just spend the weekend away because you don't know what else to do. But literally ask yourself the question, why will I do this? Why will I lift that cup and drink? And what is my intention to this? And the intention is the only thing that will bring you through the challenge that the medicine can bring you. And especially if you embark on a shamanic journey over time, it's not if, but it's when you will be challenged. And when you will be challenged, the only thing that will help you through it is your intention alone. There's not your mother, not your sister, not the person next to you, not anybody. It's only the intention you came with. And the stronger the intention, the better it is. Matter of fact, with my clients, every single session, when we have our one-on-one session as a coach and so on, that is my starting point. My first question: what is the intention for us being together today? I want to know. We're not gathering just because we have a session scheduled. What is the intention? You and I, just before I got on, that was my question. What is my intention to be on this podcast today? What is the intention? And for me, the intention was to serve and to be transparent, right? And so the intention is the key to a great life. And it will allow you to go deep within yourself without fear, and go and see what's going on. And if there is pain, that's okay. Let's find out what the pain is and let's give it some love. And perhaps with love, we can turn it to happiness.
Well,
So,
where they say that intention focuses the attention, right?
absolutely right.
And
Absolutely.
I just want to like give a shout out to Robert Brooker and Brooklyn Noctorious, and Adam is here too. And I just wanted to thank you for showing up today, and I hope you're enjoying the show. But I just wanted to like shout. I'm just like looking at the comments on the side, and I just wanted to shout out and say thank you for your interest. And uh, but so one thing we were talking about just before we went on was your relationship with your wife Grace, and how she's like been almost she's probably been more transformational for you than even Tony Robbins, right?
Grace has been Grace has been my wife. Grace, she's literally, the name sums it all up. She's
Right,
literally that, Grace, right? Grace has been a pivotal point in my life. I mean, I met her 20 years ago over the internet. I was living in Switzerland, and it was 2001, March 2001, if I recall correctly. And it's 20 years, in a few months, it's 20 years we know each other, but 12 years that we are married. Grace saw in me back then something that I had no clue about. I was in, I was I was in a dark place, pretending to have it under control. I was very it was all about me, my friend. It wasn't about anybody else but me.
right,
Um, and even old photos of me, old photos of us, um, you can literally see it. You can literally see it. I would not smile if you paid me, because for me, smile was weakness. Smile was like, what am I? What are you smiling at? Kind of thing. I was in pain, a lot of pain. I didn't know how to be loved. I didn't know how to be seen. I didn't know, I craved love and so much, you know, it was a lot of pain. So my defense mechanism was attack all the time, but she saw more. She saw behind the curtain, I guess. She believed in me before I even knew how to believe in myself.
right.
Grace has been an incredible uh, person, a friend, an incredible wife, and a soulmate in my life for sure. A strong woman, an incredibly strong woman, that had her fair share of things happening in her life, and only 3 years ago was diagnosed with cancer. We lost our business, our 7-figure business, went downhill due to a kind of business venture we went in, and eventually the person we went into this project wasn't the person he said he was, and eventually bankrupted himself and took us with, and we lost everything we had. Every single cent we had saved, we put into a law firm that told us that we had a chance to win, which instead, we didn't. And we lost everything we had. People taking all our stuff, our money was gone. We had to let go of 22 staff. So big thing. And 2 days after the court case, she had to go to a routine check, and she was diagnosed with cancer. And that was another moment, Dale, where I had to ask myself, of all the things that I have learned, will they really work? Right? Because we can learn stuff, right? And we can just pass it on to others. Oh, I learned this and you do it, right?
Right.
But there was a moment yet again in my life where I had to walk the talk. I had to implement everything I knew, everything I learned, everything that life gave me, and put it into place for my world, for Grace, to heal. And Grace, thank God, today is cancer free. And Grace didn't do one chemotherapy, did not take one tablet, did not do one radiation, did not have a mastectomy. It just healed, because we went on to this. Again, it was her decision to do this, but we went on to this journey again, another inner and outer journey. And she had to do a lot of healing, a lot of taking responsibility and doing her thing. And eventually this ease left, right? And left us with rebuilding our lives in a complete different world, from constructions to now working and talking with people and serving people and sharing with them what we learned. So Grace is an incredible human being, very strong and beautiful. And literally, as the name says, she's Grace.
And well, I've never met her. I've never seen her, but I'm sure I know she is beautiful, and that's a great story. And you must have been sort of like edified by the fact that you're what you were teaching about healing actually worked for someone who was so close to you, right? That must have been very rewarding.
In which sense you mean that?
Well, I mean, just the fact that you said, I have to see if what I've learned actually works, and to have her cancer free now through your methods, that must be very gratifying.
Oh man, that was a journey within itself. But you know what, brother? I tell you one thing. The old me would have tried to do it all by himself. Where this version of me, I knew my limits. And I remember that, I did a lot of work with her, and we did a lot of work together, and so on and so forth. But there was a moment where I said, you know what, we got to jump on a plane. We're going to go back to Peru. We're going to go and see my teacher, and we're going to sit with him. We're going to spend some time with him. And we went over there, and together we worked with Grace, and it, life taught me humility, my friend. It taught me that I do not know everything, and I do not need to know everything. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, you know what, I do not know how to do this. Or, I know how to do this until here, but I do not know more. And it's okay. And please, can you take from here? And from that moment you grow. That is the moment where everything gets into place, right? Where my old me was trying to do everything himself because I wanted to be seen so much, so bad. I wanted to be proven that I am good enough. I am worthy of love. And so I would try to do everything, myself, even though I didn't know shit. Right? I
Right.
just didn't know. But today, I am blessed to have even the opportunity to speak with you, you know, because you bring something in my life that I do not have, or perhaps I learned only later in my life, which is joy and laughter, you know, and this is something that I do with my clients or the people that come and sit the shamanic retreats when they go so deep within themselves where laughter is the last thing they ever think about. But the moment you switch and the moment you get people to find that laughter, it's a brilliant medicine, right?
Right.
So um today I am like a sponge. I am literally like a sponge. I want to learn so bad, but I know where my limits are. And when I work with my clients, that's how I feed off. I can give back the things that sometimes I learn from the person directly because we all have it within us.
Right.
Sometimes the person only needs a little bit of a nudge or a little bit of maybe changing the what they see right now. Maybe they focus on here, but maybe they forgot to look over there. My duty is that, and then get out of the way and let the person flourish, let the person find their feet. It's not about me telling people where to walk. That's not the duty of not only a coach but nobody. And
Right.
unfortunately a lot of people do that and tell people what to do because then it's about them. Oh, I told him or her to do this and she is where she is because of me.
It's
That
an
is
ego
BS.
thing.
That is no good, right? That
Right.
is ego driven. Where for
Well,
me, it's not about me, it's about the person.
well, just apropos of what you were saying about needing a little nudge, that's really what I felt your podcast did for me. It just gave me that little nudge over the edge into like true perspective on my journey and my illness and everything. And I admit I won't stop taking my medication because the consequences are too dire if something goes wrong. But
Absolutely.
but the nudge you gave me in your podcast is to I finally started to see why everybody was like so positive about me and said, I mean, people are always telling me I'm full of courage and I always just felt, well, I just did what I had to survive. But basically, I can take, I can take pride in myself because I've, I've come to a point that very few other people with my condition have been able to achieve. And and I don't need to pat myself on the back, but I can just like carry that inner satisfaction within. And that your show gave me the nudge to understand that self satisfaction.
And what a great pleasure that is, my friend. What a great pleasure that is. And you said it exactly. You did the work. I always say that. You did the work. I didn't do nothing. I just sound silly with my accent and just talk. All you do is you take action, right? And I say that to the people I serve every day. It's not about me. Matter of fact, when I finish, for example, when I hold a retreat and it's a 4-day retreat and everything like that, every single time I finish the ceremony in the evening, whenever our ceremony finishes, I literally walk away. I close the space, or I just go through that process with the people, close the space, and I literally remove myself. I just go. I don't want no thank you. I don't want no pat on the shoulder. I don't want, oh, this was amazing. I don't want none of that because we can get caught in that. We can get caught in that, and the human ways all of a sudden get addicted to that. And all of a sudden you start doing whatever it is that you do to get exactly that thing. And when you do that, your work is gone out the window because now you have a complete different purpose of why you do what you do. So for me, it's about, elevating the person, guiding the person, but letting the person take the steps, the speed, how quickly or how slowly they want to, progress or go forward or stop to understand something. It's about the person. All I do is sit and listen and try to, a little nudge here, a little nudge there, or perhaps reawaken something within and that is already there, and just to see things a little differently. I always usually say it's rather than seeing things as a black or white, I usually try to see this as a sphere and look all around it. And all of a sudden you see all of the components of the story, not just the story that is coming out of our view or the other person's view, but now we have a complete different view, the full view, right?
Right.
So yeah, it is beautiful to see results like you have expressed what happened to you and so forth. I mean, there's nothing in the world, in my life, that is more rewarding than hearing that, and hearing another person that is got his life back, or is living life even better, and so on and so forth. So man, it was such an honor to be able to do that with you and be witnessing that. So yeah.
So we're getting to the end, but just how can people get in touch with you and and tell why don't you like give a little plug for your podcast, the Life Artist Radio, and just like let people know if they're interested how to contact you and uh, go on.
Absolutely. So you can reach me on Facebook or Instagram under Rodolfo De Angeli, my name simply. I have a Facebook group called Life Artist Mastery, and if you go to ultimatesuccess.me, there's a little giveaway that I have out there, so you can go and get that for yourself. I got a challenge coming up, a 30-day challenge where I'm going to take the people that come on to the challenge for 30-day live every single day. We're going to go through this process from the beginning to the end of the 30 days on this beautiful journey. So this is coming up at the beginning of February. But if you go and get yourself your little gift that I have at ultimatesuccess.me, I'll be able to reach out to you when the challenge happens. I'd love to have you. But yeah, reach out on social media. If you want to have a chat to me, reach out. I'm more than happy to have a chat and support you in any possible way I possibly can. It would be an honor. And yeah, this is me.
Well, I didn't know you were going to have a 30-day challenge. I might have to join you for that because
That would be amazing, my friend. That'd be amazing. That
yeah,
would be amazing. So I'll definitely let you know
you
when
say
that
it's
starts.
at ultimatesuccess.me, right?
That's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're in our last 2 minutes, but thank you very much, Rodolfo. I hope I return the favor of of being an enlightening podcast host for you as you were for me. And I don't have a song to play or anything, but we every time we talk, we get closer, and we're kindred spirits. And I want to thank Robert Brooker and Brooklyn Notorious and Adam Duvall for joining us and uh, please support Mental Health Warrior TV. You can make a donation. I think it's at mental health 99 at gmail.com. I think that's the correct address, but tune into Warrior TV because we have a lineup of it's a real network of TV. We have a lineup of about 10 shows a week, and once again, Rodolfo, we're in our last minute, but thank you very much, and God bless you, and thank you for everything you do for and your sense of service and desire to help people, and you've been a life changing friend in my life too. So thank you
Thank
very
you so
much.
much. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for everybody spending time with us. Yes, I forgot to mention Life Artist Radio, which is the show that Dale was talking about. Go and check it out, and thank you for having me, Dale. I really appreciate that.
Okay. Well, stay on and we'll talk.